We're back on the Big Talker FM, worldwide, BigTalkerFM.com. The Mornings Without Joe Catanacci, Andrew Donaldson filling in, and we're thrilled to have Cooper Conway with us. He's a Young Voices contributor and the Frank Church Scholar at the Boise State University Honors College, where he studies political science. He writes about issues relating to education and school choice, and that's a topic really on the minds of this audience and people everywhere. Cooper, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. I apologize for you having to wait a little bit there, but thanks for joining us. This chart was brought to my attention. It was sent out by We Are Teachers, but it's called The Last Normal School Year. And for students that were in, for example, grade 6, their last normal school year was grade 3, grade 5, grade 2, grade 7. Their last normal school year was grade 4. It's a shocking stat. I kind of knew it because I'm a stay-at-home parent with my kids for almost 18 months. But instead of trying to maybe solve this problem, you're highlighting and you're writing and you're studying, it looks like a lot of people, governments and governors and schools, are actually looking at policies that may exacerbate this instead of trying to catch kids up and make it better.
Yeah, instead of really trying to make efforts to help students catch up and excel, they're kind of on this crusade against the idea of creating excellence and high expectations for students. And using different excuses as reasons why they can give up on kids.
What is it that our school system, I'm going to rip off my buddy Jay that I work with at Ordinary Times. He always does this when we have an education debate. He'll just come out and say, what is the purpose of our school system? Is it an education system, or is it a giant jobs program for everybody associated with the education system? And when you see stuff like this, it really makes you wonder and question sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really seems like it isn't about the students themselves and more about trying to protect other higher interests, whether that be teachers or administrators or different governments that are trying to run the schools, and the students are the ones that are really taking the fall here.
You highlighted a case out in Oregon, Governor Kate Brown out in Oregon. It's similar to some things that have been happening here in North Carolina where they're changing standards, they're sliding standards, they're lowering standards. Tell us about this case in Oregon, about them lowering the suspension of the standards, reading proficiency, writing proficiency, and what it's going to do, because this is something that we're seeing across the country as well, where they're just kind of, I hate to say sliding kids, but I don't know any other way to really describe it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even describe what they're doing in Oregon as lowering the standards and more like really just getting rid of them. So Oregon Governor Kate Brown in July signed Oregon Senate Bill 744 into law. Usually when they sign a bill, there's a press release or a ceremonial signing to celebrate. This was not the case here. Basically, the bill made sure to extend the temporary suspension of Oregon high school students having to prove they're proficient in reading, writing, and math to graduate until 2024, and then has the Oregon Department of Education review the state's graduation standards requirements and make recommendations by September of 2022 to produce new standards that will, quote, reduce disparities and ensure that every student will be on track to receive a diploma. I get what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make these graduation standards more equitable, but basically by turning graduating high school into a participation trophy, you've just completely wiped the floor of any merit that is needed to graduate high school for these students, which really has a negative effect all over the place on both students and I would say teachers as well.
Cooper Conway joining us on Big Talker FM this morning. And we know why they do this, because graduation rates and student rates are a funding trigger for a lot of these systems, isn't it?
It is. And in fact, Oregon's graduation rate is according to a 2018 data, is the third lowest in the country. And so they need to raise their graduation rates by pretty much any means necessarily. And so if that just means handing out diplomas, I guess that means handing out diplomas.
On top of that, besides that, there's the fact that one of the things when we talk about things like school choice, people push back and go, well, it takes away from public school because public school needs to get disadvantaged communities of color, disadvantaged kids, things like this. But these programs, and you write about this, when they do things like that, it's those very communities and those very students that end up getting hurt the worst in the long term, don't they?
Yes, it completely is. And I always find the line of, it hurts public schools by implementing school choice. I always ask, why? Why does it hurt public schools? Is it because the students are leaving these public schools to find better options and taking their funding with them? That it's their funding and not the system's. And that's usually the case. It's because these students are looking for other options that are better and better suit their educational needs.
What's something we should be looking for here? Because we see what parents are doing. They're at their school boards. They're upset over a wide variety of issues. But obviously, there had to be some allowances made for the COVID situation. You can't take kids out of school for a year, 18 months in some cases, without there being some issues. So clearly there was going to have to be something to be done. What do you think would have been a reasonable way to kind of make some middle ground here of, okay, we had kind of a mulligan year. We know people are going to be behind. We need to catch them up. We can't hold them to the normal standards, but we still need to challenge children to grow educationally. What do you think some of the good policy-wise things that folks should be advocating for? Because if they just go to their meetings and their teacher meetings and just yell and scream, that doesn't do any good. What's a couple policy things they could probably take with them and be like, hey, let's try this to bridge this gap in a practical way?
Yeah, I think really it's more about protecting high expectations, because right now everyone has been on the same page for a long time of being able to promote high expectations for students to reach their highest level and their highest ability. But now, as we're seeing here in Oregon, they're trying to promote these low expectations, which I would say they're using COVID as an excuse for the short term. But if you look at what the spokesman for Kate Brown said, they said equitable graduation standards are needed specifically to benefit Oregon's, and I quote, Black, Latino, Latina, Latinx, Indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander, Tribal, and other students of color, which I find insulting, but also I'm wondering, it's not like those students are leaving after COVID. They're staying, they're still here. So really this is kind of a long-term plan to lower these expectations on students and slowly strip away and even the playing field by making everyone on this low ground instead of challenging students to become the best versions and the best students, achieving the best academic outcomes possible, which is really what I think parents need to try and improve on it and urge at their school boards is they want their teachers to make their children work for what they're earning in a high school diploma and becoming better students.
Cooper Conway joining us. Cooper, when you wrote about this yourself, you wrote this, and I'll just quote it to you because I think it's interesting. You said, lawmakers have tried to address these issues, proposing all sorts of reforms to help students get the most out of their schooling. Like you said, though, it seems to me like a lot of the COVID stuff, they're doing it in the name of COVID. But as you touched on earlier, it seems like that's just been the excuse to go back to the toolbox of stuff they wanted to do anyway, and they're just putting it under that banner. And it's not really new policy or learning the lessons of COVID or learning the lessons of having kids out and learning the lessons of parents paying attention to school more than they probably ever have before. And they're just going to the same old playbook again.
Yes, completely. It's the same. Well, COVID's here. We need to start throwing more money into the system, and that's the only way we can truly combat this and help students. Well, we've been throwing money at the education system for decades now, and money does not necessarily mean that there's going to be better outcomes. We need to really empower students and parents to be able to choose an education that works best for them, and that can help them get on a higher playing field, especially if their schools are slowly starting to say, well, we've kind of given up on you, so we're just going to throw in the towel and let you, and we're going to give you these handouts of diplomas. Why would parents want that if their child's not being truly educated? They deserve an option to be able to go to a school that's going to challenge their child and give them the academic skills they are going to need at college or in the workforce or wherever their child decides to go after graduating high school.
In your opinion, and you've been writing about this obviously in various places, Cooper Conway joining us from Young Voices, you're doing this with your scholarship, you're studying this. How much of a move towards school choice have we seen coming out of the COVID epidemic? I know a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people have been loud on social media about it. But are we actually seeing movement towards school choice, multiple school options, things like charter schools, private schools, homeschoolings, how much movement is actually getting there? Because we're far enough now, we should be seeing some data if there is any. Is there actual movement, or did it just turn out to all be talk?
Yes, there's been actual movement. I mean, this past year has been labeled the year of educational choice because there's been over 20 programs created in over 10 to 15 states. And parents are fighting back. They're saying, well, if my child is going to have to attend a school online, or their public school is closed, or for whatever reason, they are wanting to be able to have more leeway in the schools that they choose, and it would be nice to have some funding go behind their child. I'm a big proponent of education scholarship accounts that give children flexible scholarship funds that otherwise would be used at their public school, that is then directed to them so that they can choose the best education option of their choice, whether that be going to a private school or using it for homeschooling. And over 1.5 million more tax vouchers, ESAs, and school choice opportunities were made available over this past year for students and their families.
Do you think the voucher system is something that's going to be attainable across, probably at a state level mostly, that would have to be done? Do you think that's going to be an attainable goal, or do you think it's going to be more of a direct funding that some people have talked about, where you have maybe folks that change the actual budgeting of the school systems themselves to refunnel these funds? Which one of those do you think is probably more practical in the current environment?
I think right now it is practical. It is practical to see school choice and vouchers taking place. I think parents really want them. Right now, there's the latest polling, according to the American Federation of Children, shows that voters support school choice at rates of 74%. And not to mention that voters are starting to negatively look down upon politicians who most of the time will be sending their own children to private schools, taking advantage of school choice because they have the funds, but are denying these opportunities to lower income families who can't afford to use out-of-pocket funds for private schooling or other educational options. And so voters are starting to see this as an issue that says, we're going to vote you out of office if you don't help us out here.
And the other thing I found really interesting with some of the polling, we've seen it locally, we've heard talk. School choice is one of those issues that cuts across a lot of different ideological barriers. We see it here in our area in Wilmington, where you have people that might be very to the left on things like economic policy or social issues, but because of the things that have gone on now, all of a sudden they're very interested in school choice. This does seem to be one issue that seems to cut across a lot of ideological lines where other issues do not, don't it?
Yes, I'll tell you, last week I was in Milwaukee for the American Federation of Children's Policy Summit, and the people that attended, many of them came from various ideological leanings. I mean, we're talking very, very far left and very, very far right, because at the end of the day, we're trying to empower children and families to have the best education. And this works on a free market perspective, and it also helps parents be able to have to create these opportunities for their children and help them use their education as a tool. I know for me, education in my family was used as a tool to help get us out of poverty growing up. So it's very important for many people, and I think people are starting to see school choice as a ticket.
I agree. Cooper Conway, tell folks real quick where they can find you online and your social media so they can follow you with all this great information you're bringing us.
Yeah, you can see my writing at on the Young Voices page of Cooper Conway. You can see my photo there, and then you can follow me on Twitter at Cooper Conway with the number 1.
Great stuff, buddy. Really appreciate it, my friend. Cooper Conway, thanks for joining us from Young Voices today.
Thank you so much.
We're at the top of the hour. We'll take a quick break, come back. 2 hours down, 1 more hour to go. Pushing along the Mornings Without Joe Catanacci show. I'm Andrew Donaldson filling in. TK Turbo is going to do some magic on the board, and we'll be back right after the news break.